affordable. It will create millions of new jobs with good wages, which always occurs when we invest in infrastructure and manufacturing, as we will be doing here. And I look forward to working with President Biden to pass a big, bold plan that will drive America forward for decades to come. This plan will have huge benefits for Western New York. It will help modernize our aging infrastructure, something we desperately need with federal dollars. And it will create tens of thousands of new, good-paying jobs right here in Western New York. So the plan is very good for all of America, and it's particularly good for Western New York, given our needs for jobs and infrastructure. And so with that, now let's get to the subject at hand, and then we will, okay. So first, I am proud to be joined by the mayor, the great mayor of our city of Buffalo, my friend Byron Brown. We have Sherry Scavone, Western New York's Women's Foundation. Thank you, Sherry. We have Brady Loveland. Are you? Brandy. Oh, Brandy. Sorry. That's even nicer. Should I sing you that song? You know that song, Brandy, you're a fine girl? I won't say the next line. Do you know the next line? What a good wife you would. Yes, so I can't say that. She knows. The next line is, what a good wife you would be. Who remembers that song? Raise your hand. Okay, not too many. McCarthy remembers it. He's just, okay. And we have Michael Weiner, the president and CEO of the United Way here in Buffalo. All right. So, you know, the rescue plan, which we passed last month, has a lot of very, very good things in it. And, whoops, it has a lot of good things in it. But one of them that is not as well known is something I'd like to talk about here today, and that is the dramatic increase in both the child tax credit and the earned income tax credit. What that means, it's sort of a good 1-2 punch for Buffalo. It helps the most impoverished, and we are one of the cities with the most impoverished kids. It helps kids who are impoverished. But at the same time, it helps the middle class. And the same people who got the stimulus checks of $1,400, families whose income is below $150,000, individuals whose income is below $75,000, will also get a benefit of both the child tax credit and the earned income tax credit. We have a responsibility. For decades, we have wanted to try and get our children here in Western New York and across the country out of poverty. And for the first time, because of this plan, there's real hope. Half the children in Western New York will be removed from poverty by the American Rescue Plan and the great increases in the child tax credit and the earned income tax credit. When our children are our greatest resource, and when a child is born into poverty, they don't get proper nutrition oftentimes. They don't get proper clothing. They don't get proper health care. They don't get proper education. They don't get proper housing. And then when they turn into a young adult, they're many, many steps behind. So by taking these kids out of poverty, it not only helps them, it not only helps their families, it helps our whole economy, because people will be productive, educated, strong citizens. And that will be great, because with poverty through no fault of their own, it's harder. Many do get out of it on their own, but it's a lot harder, okay? But this child tax credit also realizes that the middle class has been struggling. And, you know, it's much more expensive to raise children these days. And it's hard for people even who have decent incomes. So there will be more money in people's pockets here as well. About 85% of Buffalo families, 85%, will benefit from this, way up into the middle class. And that's how we designed it, because we want to put money in people's pockets so that they can live better lives for themselves and their kids, and make sure that the next generation is in better shape than this generation. That's always been the American dream. How is it going to work? Very simple. Well, let me just say a few more things. Here in Buffalo, 45% of our children, more than 25,000, are living in poverty. 20% of the kids in Erie County as a whole are living in poverty. Buffalo ranked as high as second in recent years for child poverty among similarly sized cities across the country. And so we say to both kids in poverty and their families and middle-class families, there's more help on the way. In addition to the stimulus checks, starting in July, the average family will get $250 more a month for a whole year. It's the child tax credit is raised from $2,000 to $3,000 for every child from 6 to 17, and from $2,000 to $3,600 from each child 0 to 6 years old. And we're trying to get it to be done on a monthly basis. If you pay taxes, as many middle-class people do, you will get $250 a month per child off on your taxes. If you have 3 children, $750. And if you don't pay taxes or don't pay as much taxes as the credit, the federal government sends you a check. So if you don't pay any taxes, you'd actually get a check for $250 per child. If you pay taxes, that'll be off on your taxes. If you pay some taxes that aren't enough, it's a combination. We believe we have told the administration to implement this starting in July. So people will have the checks in the meantime, the $1,400 checks, which by now the majority of families here in Western New York have gotten. And then starting in July, the child tax credit and the earned income tax credit will kick in. With these two shots in the arm, so to speak, plus the vaccines, I think we should see, starting in the summer and on into next year, a robust economic recovery with many new jobs created in the Western New York area. And so this is really good news. Given what we've struggled through in the last year, this is really, really good news. Let me give you some more numbers. In Western New York, the checks alone will pump $1.54 billion into our economy for 615,000 households. And with the child tax credit, a very similar amount will be pumped into the economy as well. It's estimated that the combination of the checks and child tax credit, a family of 4 that's making average income will get about $8,800 in total relief from these 2 checks. So it's a 1-2 punch. The stimulus checks, which have arrived or are arriving now, and the child tax credit and earned income tax credit, which will start in the summer, and about 85% of families in this region, only the very wealthiest, will not benefit from this program. With that, I probably have more I'm supposed to say here because I didn't read all my notes. Okay. It's going to benefit 27 million children in the lowest income households, and 1.5 million of those children are in New York. Let's see. I think I got it. A total of 3.56 million children will benefit in New York State, and about, as I said, 680,000 in children below the poverty line. Okay. All right. So now let's see who I'm calling on first. Our mayor, our great mayor, Byron Brown. I don't know. C? What's your middle initial?
W.
W. Brown. Byron W. Brown.
Thank you very much, Senator Schumer, and thank you for your tireless work on behalf of our nation, our state, and the city of Buffalo. As you said, Senator Schumer, the child tax credit in the American Rescue Plan will make an immense difference here in the city of Buffalo. It is estimated that the child tax credit in this piece of legislation is one of the most significant pieces of legislation to impact child poverty in this nation in decades. It will directly put dollars into the hands of people living in poverty in our community. And it's estimated that the child tax credit will cut child poverty in this nation by more than 50% in just 1 year. So, Senator, I want to, on behalf of the people of Buffalo, Erie County, and Western New York, I want to thank you for your leadership in Washington, which will not only help families recover from the pandemic, but will also create a clear pathway out of poverty for low-income families in our community. Thank you very much, Senator.
Great. Thank you again. Now we have Sherry Scavone of the Western New York Women's Foundation, or as maybe it used to be in the old country, Scavone.
That's true. That's true. Good morning. I would like to give our very special thanks to Senator Schumer for his unwavering commitment to passing the American Recovery Act. It was a little touch and go there, but we had confidence in you. Particularly the child tax credit, as has been talked about, and has such impact. And I want to also focus on not only the tax credit and its potential to mitigate poverty, but also for the investment in our society's essential infrastructure, and that is child care. That goes kind of a 1-2 punch with the tax credit. This funding drives solutions for the issue of child care, which impacts not only the healthy development of our children, which is our future workforce, such as your grandson, who we see often, but also over 18,000 New York State, primarily women and minority-owned, registered or licensed child care small businesses, hundreds of thousands of child care educators, a majority women of color, working parents, the livelihood of our businesses, and economic development and prosperity. This pandemic has laid bare that our society functions on the backs of women. Women, and especially our Black and brown sisters, as primary caregivers, women as 65% of all essential personnel, and women who hold up the service sectors. This public health crisis' disproportionate impact on women has resulted in the loss of 3 decades of women's workforce participation gains in 1 year. Thus, again, the importance of these tax credits and stimulus. 1 in 4 women have left the workforce due to child care and remote schooling priorities. 42% of women with children under the age of 2 have been forced from the workforce. This pandemic is predicted to derail women's careers by a generation, taking out diversity of voice, critical talents, family economic security, retirement security. So given the importance of child care in building prosperous communities and promoting racial, economic, and gender equity, as well as child well-being, we are beyond pleased that Senator Schumer made child care stabilization and the Child Care Tax Act a big part of this recovery plan. West New York Women's Foundation and our advocate colleagues across the state are now working with our state legislators to direct the almost $2.3 billion available in federal funding in this plan and prior bills to provide families affordable care, support the vital early childhood workforce, and provide sustenance for New York's $4.3 billion child care business sector. As we rebuild, we must invest and innovate in quality, affordable, accessible child care system and in our children that lifts our economy and economic mobility for women and families. It's tough to get to work in Western New York without roads, and it is impossible to go to work without a safe, nurturing place for your children to be. The American Recovery Act provides a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity to build back much better, and for that we, again, thank you, Senator Schumer.
Thank you very much, Sherry. And now we have Brandy Loveland, a Western New York resident who will tell in her own personal terms what this means to her. Thank you for coming, Brandy.
Thank you for having me, Senator Schumer. So, I am currently a achievement coach for the Economic Mobility Hub at Western New York Women's Foundation. I'm a social worker who promotes economic and social change, but I'm also a wife and a mother. So I wanted to talk, besides numbers, of how this affects me and the work that I do in the community, as I am constantly working with families in this mobility hub who are working to try to excel in education and to translate that to employment. They are struggling with basic needs, being able to pay for transportation to get to these workforce development programs, struggling with housing and rent and other basic needs that their children need to survive, including right now paying for the internet that they need to keep
Right.
their children educated.
How much a month?
Oh my good,
Yeah,
oh
people
my
can't
goodness.
afford it, and their kids can't learn. It's
There
wonderful.
are so many women that I've dealt with who are struggling with these basic needs so much that their bills have gotten so far behind that even with some of the money that they've been given, it's really, really hard to keep up. So this means so much to them to have this child tax credit so that they can start trying to rebuild and get back on track so they can complete these workforce development programs so they can ultimately get jobs. And then when it comes to me, I said that I was a wife and a mother. And right now, you know, me and my husband are doing okay. But there was a time when we were not because my husband was furloughed because of the pandemic. You know, so these are concerns for the middle class. And so I may, you know, be fine now, but there are so many of my friends and neighbors and people who I know who are currently struggling to make ends meet. Women, mothers who have left employment so that they can be able to help their children with their education. This child tax credit will help to supplement that income that they have lost. So
Great.
I thank you,
Thank you,
Senator
Brandy.
Schumer, for your dedication to the families of Western New York.
Thank you, Brandy. Well done and well said. And last but not least, we have Michael Weiner. He's the president and CEO of the United Way of Buffalo.
Thank you, Senator. Also, I'd like to, first of all, give a shout out to Exploring More for hosting today.
Yes.
Very nice of you to do that.
If anyone is cold-hearted, look at the pictures of these children. Don't we want to help them? I've been looking at them.
Great to
They're
see so many
dear.
kids here.
Look at this nice look.
The United Way is grateful, very sincerely grateful to Majority Leader Schumer and the Senate for passing American Rescue Plan, which expands the child tax credit in particular. The United Way of Buffalo and Erie County continues to fight a path to financial well-being for families and individuals in Buffalo and Erie County, and the expansion of the child care tax credit helps all of us get closer to that overarching goal. This is particularly true in light of the pandemic, which has seen essentially an unemployment rate that has doubled from last year at this time, in addition to a significant rise in the number of families that live above the federal poverty level, but nonetheless are asset-limited, income-constrained, employed families, what we commonly refer to as working poor families. And that really is one of the key aspects of this plan as well. Just as an example, the rate in Erie County is 27% pre-COVID for Alice families, and has now no doubt expanded exponentially. I don't even have the data for what the impact of COVID is on working poor families at this point, along with the federal poverty rate of 13%, which has also been elevated in light of COVID. And when you look at the specific zip codes, we don't talk about this that often, but I know the mayor appreciates this greatly. City of Buffalo, Lackawanna, they have rates combined between federal poverty and working poor families over 60%. Think about that. There are communities that are devastated by this hardship and this unprecedented event that we're facing. So what's the expansion of the child care tax credit mean to improve financial stability for families? A lot has already been said. I just want to run through some of the highlights. Families most in need now will have access to the credit to be fully refundable, which was not the case previously. It helps address income inequities because of the higher rates of people of color living in financial hardship. Provides support to the 34% of Erie County households with children experiencing financial hardship. The child care tax credit is now available to parents and heads of household who will fill low-wage jobs, which makes it even more difficult for many households to make ends meet, even with 2 workers employed. Provides relief to working families who pay for child care. Child care in Erie County is as expensive as college tuition. A family of 4 with 2 kids in preschool and an infant, $1,500 a month on average for child care. Think about that. The expansion of the child care tax credit will prevent Erie County families from sliding into poverty and become below the federal poverty level, and the local economy is obviously, as I mentioned earlier, is favorably impacted since families will have more resources to spend on self-sufficiency needs like technology, food, shelter, healthcare, and the like. So again, I want to thank the Majority Leader and the Senate for making it a priority to expand the tax credit and for being a partner in our fight to create financial stability for all families and individuals in Erie County. Thank you.
Thank you. By the way, last time I was here I talked about restaurants, and I still have my Save the Restaurants mask on. Okay, we're going to take questions first on the subject of the tax credits. Questions? Everyone understand it fully? Okay. Now we'll take questions on the President's it's been changed from Build Back Better to the American Jobs Plan. Questions on that? Bob.
Senator, what about the restoration of the SALT Part 29?
It's something that I think is very important, and I'm going to fight hard to see that it get done. Now we have a number of our legislators on the House side who said they want it done as well, and it was a dagger aimed at the heart of New York. It hurts many middle-class families here in Western New York and elsewhere, and it's something we want to try to get the cap lifted in this bill.
What do you think the chances are?
I think they're getting better and better. Okay? Other questions on this subject of the Build Back Better?
In terms of the infrastructure, lofty goals, obviously here in New York, roads, broadband, all
Yes.
very important topics. How in the world do you pay for it?
Good question. That's always a nice question. What the proposal the President will make is that some of the very steep tax cuts aimed at the very wealthy and the biggest corporations that were passed under the Trump administration will be undone and pay for this. The infrastructure is so important, and if it's a large package, we could do big new projects here in Western New York, not just rehabilitate our roads or our water or our sewer. So it's really vital. We depend on transportation. We're a crossroads right here, and getting money for infrastructure helps us revitalize our economy and create new jobs. But the pay for will be undoing some of the Trump tax cuts that were aimed at the wealthiest people and the wealthiest corporations. Okay. Anything else? Okay, thank you, everybody.
Before you go.
Yeah, I said it. That's why I said anything
I
else.
thought you meant on that particular topic.
Oh.
Chris Worley.
Anything else? On any topic?
Marijuana, obviously New York slated to become the 16th state to legalize it for adult recreational use. Some are wondering on the federal level.
Yes.
Will you bring it forward?
I support decriminalization at the federal level, and we'll be introducing legislation with a few of my colleagues shortly.
What about legalization?
Decriminalization, legalization. At the federal level, you call it decriminalization because that lets the states legalize.
Lately, you've become very outspoken on the need to cancel student debt. Why? What?
Okay,
What is it that
this
makes
is
so
near
possible?
this is near and dear to my heart. You know, college should be a ladder up, but for so many students, the debt is an anchor down. And the debt is outrageous. We never heard of it a generation ago. For kids to graduate from college with so much debt, it's so canceling 50,000 of student debt has 4 advantages. Number one, the President can do it with the flick of a pen. You don't need legislation, and we're urging him to do it. Second, it takes the burden off these kids that struggle. Not kids, adults too. Do you know the federal government is charging people 7%? You can get a car loan or a mortgage for less than that. So they're really taking advantage of the students. Third, it helps our economy. Aside from the human cost, when these kids no longer, and adults, because they're into their 30s and 40s still paying back the debt, when they no longer have to send the $500 a month to the federal government, they can spend it in the stores and in the restaurants and travel and buying a car. And it also delays their lives. A lot of them don't take the jobs they want. A lot of them don't start families because of this huge overhang of debt. So that's another reason. So it'll be a real kick in the arm to our, or shot in the arm. Yeah, wrong metaphor. Shot in the arm for our economy. So I feel very strongly about it. We're urging Western New Yorkers and people across America, if you believe in this, send an email, make a call, send a letter to the president. We're trying to get 15 million people to contact the president that we want this done.
Also with Voting Rights Act, as you know, Georgia has passed a law.
Yes.
The House passed 2 bills. The Senate is the majority, but there's not votes. What's going on with that health?
Well, I labeled H.R. 1, which was the House bill, the For the People Act, S1, to show you the level of importance we believe it is, and we are going to get this passed. What they're doing in some of these states, you know what they're saying? To vote by absentee ballot, you need a notary public to come to your house. What poor person can afford a notary public? It's outrageous. And so we must get S1 passed so it will undo a lot of these treacherous things.
Senator, we heard from you a couple of weeks ago regarding Governor Cuomo and the controversy in the investigation. Now that there is a 10th accuser, do you have anything else?
No, I stand by my statement. Okay, thank you, and you see the Bills hat? Let's go Buffalo. It's going to be a good year. Felt bad about Syracuse, but they did okay. Okay, thank you, everybody.
Thank you, sir. Your support's greatly appreciated.
Thank you.
on this.
Thank you, Brandy. Such a nice name. I've always liked that name, Brandy. Come on over, we'll chat for a minute.
Good seeing you.
Sure.
Mayor. It's been a while.
Yeah, absolutely.
Who sang that song? No, let's just talk for a minute among ourselves. That's the nicest thing.
I think they wanted one with just.
Oh, okay. Yeah, okay, we'll do one with just us three. The great Jordan does it all. Bob, do you want to take a picture?
Ladies, why don't you put the senator in the middle?
Yes.
Great. Okay. Good.
In the middle of you two.
Okay. He looks better surrounded by lovely.
Mayor has years of experience.